You're muted.
Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome to the #1 Group of 6 college football show in the history of the world. This is the Group of 5 guys presented by FanDuel, and our mission is to be the voice for the Group of 6 football programs, the voice that the mainstream media absolutely refuses to be. We need your help to do that. Make sure you hit the follow button on all the social platforms at Group of 5 guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Believe Network, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel, leave a 5-star rating and a review. Most importantly, tell your family and friends all about us. Conference preview season is upon us. We'll get the season started with Conference USA. We're going to talk about our favorites, contenders, dark horses, all the above. Hope you enjoy the show. This is the Group of 5 guys, and we are coming to you live.
They got Old Dominion week 3, and ODU is by no means a layup. Group of 5 guys told me that, so that has to be true.
We looked at each other. We was like, Mike, the best place to be is a Group of 5. So I'm sitting here with the Group of 5 guys, right?
Troy has won. It's been a winner, and it's a special place. So it's why you want the job.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
It was across there. You want to have this thing packed out, have the student section packed out, giving those guys hell on the sideline. I mean, that's part of it. I mean,
win or lose, like we're winning the tailgate.
There's no better place to be developed in this country than Boise State.
Well, Jeff, safe to say I am not in midseason form. I mean, you get the show started, I'm on mute to start the show. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed, and it won't happen again. So 6:04 Eastern Standard Time on a Monday morning, and I have already made a catastrophic mistake to get this show started.
Look, Sprouse, this is camp time. It's where we're still working out the kinks. We hadn't quite got to the season yet, so I'll let that slide. Look, first morning, 4 a.m. for me, 5 a.m. for you. So we're getting this thing going, but it's here, yep. Sprouse. I mean, conference previews, I felt like, just a little bit ago, we were like, we got plenty of time. And now it's right here.
This is the way it goes, especially the busier life gets, the busier you get with the family, with other things. The summer flies by, the spring flies by. I mean, it feels like, I know we've been on here every week, but it feels like not that long ago when we were up here arguing about Tulane and James Madison.
I know.
And their right to be in the playoff. And so we get into conference preview season. We are back Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, live. We'll be doing that throughout the season. We'll let you know if we're not doing that. But it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and 6 conferences now to cover. So we'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll go Conference USA here today. We will go MACtion on Wednesday, and then we'll go Mountain West on Friday. And then next week, we go Pac-12, American, Sun Belt, and then we got week 0.
Yeah, and then I think, Sprouse, correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of talked about this the other night. We got to get our UConn preview in there. We'll probably do that the following Monday.
Yep.
Probably need to throw Notre Dame in there as being, an independent G6 program.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Conference USA, despite what I think is the narrative about Conference USA, and Jeff, I hate saying a conference as a whole is good or not good, because as we've stated since 2020 doing the show or doing the social media, is like, every conference has a couple really good teams, and every conference has a couple really bad teams. Now, a conference can have depth, and that may be what you want to call a good conference. A conference may be competitive. That may be what you want to call a good conference. Or a conference has one really freaking good team that makes a big run, and some people might call that a good conference. So you don't know, but Conference USA, to me, is kind of in the middle. you have some really good programs, and you have everybody gave them flack for getting these quote unquote FCS schools. But guess who's been the top of this conference the last couple of years? It's been these new FCS schools that have a program and a culture of winning, and they haven't skipped a beat. And then you've got, your heavy favorites year in and year out teams like Liberty, and then you've got kind of your OGs that have been sitting there, middle, Western Kentucky, FIU, that have been in this conference for a long time. Now, who's going to step up and be that? We're going to talk about a lot of it here this morning.
Yeah, and I feel like this year more than ever, after going through all these teams and their schedules, because that plays such a huge part in it, right? This conference this year feels like there are several teams that can make a run at this championship. Now, a lot of that is going to depend on, can they get through the meat of their schedule, especially their non-conference slate, which some of these programs got brutal non-conferences from a physical standpoint. So can they manage that, then get into conference and make a run? But you got a lot of returning production at the skill positions. You got one of the best secondaries probably in the conference in Western Kentucky. And then you got a lot of transfers coming in with a new head coach with Missouri State. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be, an awesome season to kick off the preview shows. And I don't know, we'll see if your take is different than mine, and maybe there's just some surprises in there. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, yeah, I have a feeling that, there might be some controversy, especially with you going into this show, especially in this conference USA. Well, Jeff, you've been known to pick middle no matter what, which, there is something called blind faith, and, you have it.
I've always been kind of keen to the blind faith in my life. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm always going to be a homer, but I think I got humbled pretty hard a season ago. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But do want to say, if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, come over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, let you know when we go live every single morning. Shout out Juan. Juan's in the chat. What's up, Juan?
Juan, we have got to get up there and see the Pirates.
No doubt.
I mean, and they got 1 week too. That is intriguing. That is for sure. Well, look, let's talk Conference USA. Last year, Kennesaw State, kind of out of nowhere, right? I mean, not a ton of national expectations for them a year ago for the Owls. And they beat Jacksonville State, who, of course, beat them in the regular season. And so that's kind of a tale as old as time, right? The loser of the regular season matchup. It's difficult to beat a really good team twice. You got UTEP gone. Only 10 teams in Conference USA this year. So, kind of up for grabs, right? If you haven't been competitive in this conference, now's your chance. Now's your chance to get in the top half and compete. But you got Casey Woods now at Missouri State, Ryan Beard over to Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt. You mentioned a bunch of transfers coming into this conference, a bunch of good players leaving, a bunch of good players coming back to the G6 that I think are going to be some difference makers here in Conference USA. But Jeff, do you have a storyline, a question mark that's going to sort of, capture this entire conference for 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into this year, it's going to be, I'll just come out and say it on paper. To me, Liberty should be the favorite. But can they bounce back from really a lackluster letdown of a season last year at 4-8? So my question is, or I guess my storyline is, can Jamie Chadwell get this program back to where the fan base wants it and expects it to be, with a ton of transfers coming in 2026?
Yeah, and that's going to be a question mark, because I think in Lynchburg, they are very antsy right now, ready to get the season started. A lot of expectations, a lot of hope, but also a little bit of dissension maybe amongst the fan base about Jamie Chadwell and about that staff. For me, the big question mark, I alluded to it earlier, is you have I'll call them the big four in the conference that are going to be in the mix, right? Liberty, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, and Kennesaw. Who is going to emerge to compete with those guys? Like I mentioned, there's only 10 teams in this conference. So it don't take a whole lot. You beat the bottom half and you're in the mix. You know what I'm saying? So is it middle? Is it FIU who's got a lot of pieces? Is it Delaware with Minicucci coming back and a lot of excitement up there? So going to be an interesting conference. But you mentioned Liberty. On paper, they're the favorite. According to FanDuel, they're the favorite in this conference. They got all the resources. They got Jamie Chadwell, who 2 years ago you thought was going to take a big time P4 job, still at Liberty. So let's talk them. I think, and by the way we're going to do this show is we're going to do favorites, we're going to do contenders, we'll do dark horses, we'll talk about everybody else, and then we'll make some predictions. But let's start with Liberty. I think they're the consensus favorite on paper.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have a lot of departures from a year ago, which may not necessarily be a bad thing. But start at the quarterback position. You get Jalen Henderson transferring over from West Virginia. Now, not a ton of production. Been at a few stops before that, but got the size, got the athleticism, which Chadwell likes for his quarterbacks. And then you also get Deshaun Purdy coming over from Wake Forest, who, in a similar respect, can move around, can run, can make the throw. So who's going to be that starter going into week one? I'm not sure. But it's I would say they are deeper at that position this year than they were a year ago. I think probably one of the biggest transfers and grabs of this offense or of this offseason, though, is Kanye Udo. We saw him at Army a few years ago, absolutely tear it up. Now, is that a symptom of that system, or is it the guy's really good? I genuinely think he is a phenomenal running back. He's big, he's strong, he's got enough speed to take it the distance. So I think with that 1-2 punch in the run game of not only having the quarterback who can run, but having probably one of the better backfields from first, second, and third string in Conference USA with Kanye Udo. You got Jalen Coleman in there. So you got very capable running backs. And I think probably one of the better quarterbacks as it emerges in this conference.
Well, and you mentioned the talented backfield along with a veteran and pretty dang good offensive line too. So I think whoever gets the nod at QB1, right, is you're going to have something to lean on. You're going to have the run game that's going to open some things up for you. I want to talk a little bit about, we mentioned Jamie Chadwell, and he came out in the media days and talked about he had some health issues last year that maybe were a distraction for the season. But it was interesting. I like to read the Athlon Sports, like the opposing coaches little segment. And to paraphrase what one of the anonymous coaches said, but the comments in that magazine about Liberty, just talking about how soft they were last year. And they maybe had a bunch of guys that were there to get a bag, didn't really love ball, went to Liberty, get a check, and they kind of checked out. And if you watched them play in their inconsistency, that tracks a little bit, right? They just, and I think it's very interesting. It started after their Fiesta Bowl appearance against Oregon a couple years ago. And then the next year they had a bunch of guys coming back, but you could just tell it wasn't right. You could tell it was a different attitude and a different mindset. And it started at the quarterback spot with Salter that year. And it kind of seems like it just sort of followed with that leadership. So maybe you get a guy now like Kanye Udo, a West Point kind of guy. I know he transferred. He was only there for a year, maybe two.
Yeah.
And I think when you can have a veteran O-line, a veteran running back, a couple running backs, and then you get somebody in there at quarterback that really is there not just to collect a check, guys that maybe came from places where they were probably getting a bigger check. So there's some excitement for Liberty on the offense.
And I think they should be excited. Whoever the quarterback ends up being is going to have tons of talent around him. And I'm really excited for Rashawn Cunningham. He's a transfer out of Charleston Southern. At 600 yards a year ago, 7 touchdowns. You get Jamari Pearson back, and then you get Mekhi Jackson, who's a transfer from Indiana. Didn't have a ton of production last year, but the year prior did. So you have running backs. You have very capable wideouts. You talked about that veteran offensive line, and then you flip it to the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be one of the better defenses in Conference USA as well. So to me, this makes the quarterback position like ideal. Who can come in and run the offense, be efficient, protect the ball, make your zone reads, what they're supposed to be and then get out on the edge and make plays with your feet. Like this is a quarterback's dream offense, dream team, really. But it's a lot of transfers. Is that culture set? Can they get these guys to come in, buy in? Obviously, throughout the summer, you've seen that. But when you get into camp, who's going to be tough? Who's going to be physical? That remains to be seen.
Jeff, and one of the question marks too for them on defense is, as we get ready to look at their schedule a little bit, is they're going to play some guys. They're going to play some solid quarterbacks. You know, they're going to play Delaware. They're going to play Minicucci. They fortunately somehow managed to not get Jacksonville State on the schedule. They're going to play Western Kentucky and Tisdale. So who's going to rush the passer and create some of that havoc against some pretty good players, especially at the top of this conference? But you look at their schedule, I mean, right off the rip, you're going to find out a lot about Liberty. And they're at James Madison. And James Madison, many people think there's going to be a pretty good drop-off. But as we've talked about James Madison over the course of a couple of years, like, it wasn't no drop-off when they moved up from the FCS. Wasn't no drop-off when Signetti left. So they've had what should be steps taken back, and they haven't. And then you're at James Madison, and you know that place is going to be
cranked up.
An electric factory. But then, I mean, their non-conference overall is super manageable, right? I mean, it's not easy. James Madison will be tough, right? Coastal will probably be tough. But Gardner Webb, Ball State in there,
game,
both at home.
Chadwell going back. I always like the storyline games, right? So, yeah. But then you get Delaware right out the rip, who I think is going to be very good, and that's on the road as well. But I think overall, when you look at it, their schedule is very favorable. Like they got a favorable draw, not only in the non-conference, but in conference as well. I mean, your road games are Delaware at Kennesaw. Those are your two tough ones, and you get those fairly early on. But you're at New Mexico State down the road, and then you finish the season with Missouri State. So, I mean, outside of them just not being able to get those transfers to buy in, I mean, they should be one of the top teams in this conference. If they don't, Sprouts, if for some reason they happen to slip up early and they're about to file, 3-3 or something like that, I think that fire under the seat.
Get warm.
That's just kind of, it's just a little kindling right now. I think that thing starts to get really, really hot, but I don't think that happens. I think Chadwell turns it around this year.
Well, there's just no excuse for them. Right? Like they're playing in a whole different ball game as far as resources go in Conference USA. They are. So there's no reason. And like what's happened with them now, they lost a bunch of close games last year, but they lose games that they shouldn't lose. I mean, I walked out there. Now, Jacksonville State obviously turned out to be pretty damn good a year ago, but I walked out there and saw Liberty in week 0, or was it week 0 or week 1? I can't remember. I think it was week 0 at Jacksonville State. And when you look at the quote unquote eye test, Liberty looks at, like, they looked apart. And so you're watching them play and it was just frustrating really to watch. And they have those games 2 years ago when they inexplicably lose to Kennesaw before Kennesaw got good. They lose last year to FIU. They lose these games that they really got no business losing. And then they find themselves having to win a big game, that could have been a little room for error. But I think, we'll see.
FanDuel's got them at 8.5. You see 9 wins on that schedule.
Well, I like if I was blindly picking, and I'm going to be pessimistic, okay, just to see where we're at. Let's say you lose to James Madison. You're going to beat Gardner Webb and Ball State. Coastal toss-up. Delaware, to me, potential toss-up.
I agree.
So you'll beat Sam Houston. Kennesaw toss-up. FIU is going to be tough. You'll beat New Mexico State. Sorry, Jeff.
MTSU's a loss.
You beat Middle. You'll beat Missouri State. Like I don't know, dude.
8.5.
Even if they're good, even if they're really good,
that's what I'm saying.
Like 8 wins, I think is a pretty good season for them.
And I think 8 wins gets them in the conference championship game.
I agree because I think they may have 2 losses in the non-conference. Yeah. And so, if they have 2 other losses, and the way this conference is, we see it, especially with these conferences that play during the week, where you just get these weird games, you get weird weather, you get stuff that shakes a certain way. Yeah, I mean, I think 2 losses in the conference will get you in the championship. Maybe not a home championship game, but I think it gets you there. The other favorite, and Jeff, we did a terrible job last year of not paying attention early enough to Jacksonville State. But I think, they lose Cam Cook, so maybe there's a narrative that they're going to drop off a little bit. But again, we talked about it all offseason. We'll talk about this every episode going forward in the previews. Is what do they have that Liberty doesn't have, right? That a lot of schools in the conference don't have. They got a sure thing at quarterback. They know who their quarterback is, and they've known it going into the entire offseason. So they got Caden Creel coming back. The style that they're going to play. And so I don't think Jacksonville State drops off a ton. And the other thing is, just because we saw it twice, I mean, that is a brutal place to play for a road team.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd is electric. Just kind of tucked away in the mountain, I guess you can say there. But yeah, having Caden Creel coming back is huge. He's a dual threat type of player. I think he's going to make a huge jump in the pass game this year. I think he's going to put up more passing yards than a year ago, but 1,000 passing, 1,000 rushing yard guy. DeAndre Johnson, you talked about him. He was a draft pick of yours in a G6 draft. I mean, the guy's 6'8". He had 700 yards a year ago, 6 touchdowns. I don't know how you stop this guy in the red zone. You can even put 2 guys on him. You can put one guy underneath and one guy over. He's going to be 4 to 5 inches at minimum taller than everybody else. So to me, he's just the perfect red zone threat. So now if you put 2 guys over there and you run some quarterback run game, now you pick up an extra blocker. You're taking another defender out of the box to defend him. I think in the red zone, this team's going to be a nightmare. You also got Ronell Johnson transferring from Missouri State, who had 500 yards and 2 touchdowns a year ago. Dylan Gentry's back. He had some production last year. So my biggest question mark, or 2 biggest question marks for Jack State, is who's going to replace Cam Cook's production? I don't think it's going to be one guy. Christian Lando's there. I think it's going to be more, kind of by committee. And then you get one offensive lineman coming back. And then really the other spots are transfers and unproven guys. How quickly can those guys mesh together?
Yeah, it's probably going to be running back by committee, which there's no, I mean, it was kind of that anyway. Yeah. Even when you have a true RB1, right? I mean, they get the kid from Georgia, Andrew Paul, coming in as a transfer. And what a place to be if you're a running back. And yeah, you get one starter, but there's some experience there on the offensive line. Last year, they had the number 1 rusher in the country. You remember we were up there middle of the season. They got a walk-on starting at left tackle. He's like 250 pounds. And they still did it. So that's just credit to the culture that they have there and the style of play that Charles Kelly's built.
Well, that's where I wanted to go next, Browse. Charles Kelly, I mean, talk about him for a little bit. Just the job he's been able to do.
Well, I'm a little surprised, and I hate doing this, and I'm going to do it probably on every episode because there's 1 or 2 coaches in every conference that I'm kind of surprised the name hasn't come up in the national media, at least, for taking another job. Now I do think these Conference USA coaches, if they were to make a leap, it's probably not to the SEC. It's probably to the American, or something of that nature. But you look at them, 7-1 in the conference a year ago, home conference championship game that they lost to a really good Kennesaw State team who was playing. I mean, what a game that was, with Amari Odom and those guys making some plays at the end of the game. But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the name comes up if they get to winning again.
Yeah, I hope not. I think he's a perfect fit for that program, and what he's been able to do since he's taken over to me is hadn't skipped a beat. I mean, it's been incredible. So you got to just give credit to him and that coaching staff and the culture he's been able to build. Yeah,
Jeff. And one more thing, just to touch on the defense a little bit, because I think they're going to be really good defensively. Pretty good mix of guys. Max Sanders comes back, 85 tackles, 11 and a half TFLs a year ago. They were in all the games, the 2 games we saw them live. I mean, they fly around, man, and they are tough to run on. They're tough to get anything going offensively against. And that, of course, helps out the other side of the ball when you're trying to maybe figure out who's going to be the running back, who's going to be your top guys on offense. But the schedule to me is like manageable but tough. They don't have a P4 team, to open, but we've been talking about this, and this is a recipe for disaster for any team. They got to go to North Dakota week 0, and from experience, brutal. I got PTSD from it. And I'll say this, I'll never forget. I've talked about this before. We're at the golf tournament, the alumni golf tournament in the spring, before Middle goes to play James Madison in their first home FBS game. And what is it, March or April? And we're talking amongst ourselves and some of the coaches, and we're like, guys, and even the coaches are like, I don't know who the hell thought that was a good idea. This was before the game. This was before, and it turned out to be worse than you could have imagined. Now, Jacksonville State, a little bit of a tougher team than I think Middle had been, or it certainly is now. Going up to North Dakota, though, that is going to be nuts. Absolutely nuts at North Dakota State.
Yeah, that's going to be an incredible week 0 game too. So you got to be prepped and ready to go. But you're on the road there. Then you come back. You get Eastern Kentucky at home. And you're on the road at Ohio. I think Ohio's going to be a good team this year. They got some things they need to figure out. Then you get Georgia Southern at home. I'm not super high on Georgia Southern this year, but they're going to be a good team. Like, it's not a pushover game. Like, you can't just walk in, show up. You got to be ready to play.
And they'll be good offensively.
Yeah,
so that'll
exactly.
be
They'll be good offensively. They always are with that Helton offense. Then you get Middle at home. We'll see how Middle is going to be. They've beefed up their offensive line. We'll get to them in a little bit. But then you go on the road at Kennesaw, FIU at home, New Mexico State on the road, Sam Houston at home. So the middle there definitely kind of lightens up until you get at Western Kentucky, which is going to be a great game. Missouri State at home, and then finish the year on the road at Delaware. It's not, to me, it's not one of the, it's kind of middle of the road. It's definitely not the most difficult schedule in Conference USA. Very, very manageable non-conference like we talked about, but it's also, it's not super easy either, because you got your tough road, your conference matchups are tough. At Delaware to finish the season, that could either get you in the championship game or that could knock you out. I think Minicucci in that offense is going to be stout, especially throwing the ball. And then Western on the road as well. And then Kennesaw State. So your road conference games, to me, are 3 of the more tougher opponents that you could possibly draw.
Jeff, you would think that I live like in the sticks somewhere, because all my metrics are showing that I got great internet right now.
I know.
And it just kicks off.
You need to talk to our boy.
That was a quick transition though.
Yeah. You need to talk to our boy Elon. Get you some Starlink, maybe. Who knows?
I might have to. Well, Jeff, do you have anybody else that you have that you're considering a favorite in Conference USA?
No, to me, it's Liberty and Jack State, just with, I think, Liberty's ceiling is super high, depending on if they can hit on their transfers and all of them kind of gel together, and then the returning production that Jack State has.
Yeah. Let's go to the contender category. And I mentioned the quote unquote big 4 in this conference at the top of the show. Western Kentucky's got to be in the mix again, for them. And it's interesting for me for Western, because the last couple of years we've talked about a new offensive coordinator, a transfer quarterback, couple receivers coming in. And this year you do have a new offensive coordinator again, but you do actually have Tisdale that's coming back, that played pretty well at times last year. He's got Katie Hutchinson coming back as his top guy at wide receiver. So the offense should be, pick up right where it left off at Western.
Yeah. I mean, the other Helton, he's the one who calls pretty much the offense, for the Hilltoppers. So having Tisdale coming back, 2025 freshman of the year, I think that's huge. I think he's going to make a big jump. At times last year, I felt like he bailed. He got to his first, second read maybe, and then if it wasn't there, he was kind of taking off and running around. I think he'll be a little more calm this year. You mentioned Katie Hutchinson on the outside. They get at the running back position, Jay Allen coming over from Tulsa, who was productive a year ago. He wasn't their number one guy, but he'll be probably the feature back in this offense. They had some transfers leave Western that I thought were going to be really good. Caleb Hicks comes in from Oklahoma State to kind of round out that room. Then you got Cameron Flowers. I think their big transfer for me is Quavez Humphreys from Sam Houston. Big body. Really, I don't want to say he underwhelmed. I think Sam Houston's offense underwhelmed last year, and that's why his production was down. I think this might be one of the best years he's had in his career. So having him and Katie Hutchinson, I think, is a hell of a 1-2 punch.
Jeff, here's the big problem for Western Kentucky. Their schedule at the top half especially is tough. And you're gonna have, it ain't no can they stay healthy. Like there's gonna be guys that get knocked out. There you go at Nevada, which is not an easy one, but then you're at Georgia, at Indiana. So 3 straight road games, and 2 of them are against arguably like the top programs in the country on the road. And so you're going to come out of that Indiana game and you better hope you got some good depth on that team. So this could be a situation where they have a really slow start and maybe they get some guys healthy towards the end of the season. But like after they get out of the non-conference, their conference schedule starts out pretty light. And then it gets a little tougher, middle of the season, end of the season for Western.
Yeah, that last stretch to finish the season to me is looking at that. You get 100 miles of hate. Finally, thank you for whoever scheduled this game. We get 100 miles of hate in November 7th. So they're at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium. That's probably going to be a loss. Then you get Jack State at home, who we just talked about as a favorite. Then you're on the road at Liberty, who we just talked about as a favorite, and then you get finish the year at Kennesaw State. So no, I think you're exactly right. The beginning of that year, can you stay healthy through that stretch? Because Western has one of the best defensive secondaries, I think, in the entire conference, returning a ton of production, right? But their offensive line, defensive line has to stay healthy. If they can't, it doesn't matter who the guys in the back end are. It doesn't matter if Tisdale's at quarterback and Katie's at wideout. If you can't block or you can't control the line of scrimmage because you're top 2, maybe your first rotation guy, they get beat up in those first 3 weeks. Can they get healthy by the end of the season? Because that 4-game stretch, I mean, that's difficulty in the season.
Jeff, I'm not sure I like at Middle in November, and I'll tell you why. Because that's the point of the season when, unless Middle turns some switch and figures it out, they've already given up. The fans will already have given up on the season at that point in the year. So that makes me fear, and it's going to make me puke. That makes me feel like there's going to be a lot of red in that damn stadium.
Yeah, there might be.
And I don't like it.
There might be, but maybe I'll be there.
I'll probably be there. I think I make that, my annual trip up to the borough. I think so. Saturday game. Well, do we have a time yet? Probably not.
No, I don't. Probably not.
Hopefully at 3:30. I think 3:30.
It'll usually in November. Yeah, you'll have it'll probably be like a 1 o'clock maybe.
That's always solid. Well, Jeff, so you talk about Western, the other contender, and we talked before the show. I don't think Kennesaw State is going to take as big of a drop as we thought. Now, you lose Odom, you lose Coleman Bennett, you lose a lot of guys that came in there and really turned that place around last year. And Amari Odom was a guy that the offense went as he went, but he also, when he struggled, it was tough to watch. And so we'll see. They'll be, running back by committee. They got probably 3 guys that are going to get the share. I think they're going to be good on defense. Kennesaw, again, it's one of those places where they're just going to have guys. They're able to work the portal. Jerry Mack has done unbelievable things there. They play in a stadium that's small and kind of weird, but probably a place that's a little distracting to go play in as a road team. I think they're going to be pretty good. And here's the deal, too. They get their toughest games at home. Jacksonville State, Liberty, and FIU all at home in Kennesaw. I don't think you're going to see as much of a drop-off.
No, I don't. I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off at all, mainly because of who they're returning defensively, especially at the linebacker position. You got Barron Hobson, Tywan Christopher. I mean, both have tons of production coming from a year ago. Your top two tacklers on that defense. So I think they're going to anchor that defense. They brought in some transfers on the defensive line. For me, it's who's going to replace Amari Odom, right? I mean, you have two transfers. You got Ricky Collins coming over from Syracuse, who has some experience. So I think he brings some meaningful Power 4 experience playing football at this level. And then you get JUCO transfer Landon Varnes, who had, coming from Mississippi Gulf Coast, tons of production, right? Over 3,000 yards passing a year ago, 31 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Now, I don't think Kennesaw throws it that much offensively. I think they're going to want to be more run dominant, especially with that defense. Well, I think they'll be the top defense in Conference USA. I really do. So whenever you have a great defense and you're able to run the ball, and then you just need kind of a capable pass game, especially in Conference USA, I think it's gonna get them right at the top of this conference.
Yeah, and they should be pretty good on the offensive line. They bring in Mateo Guevara, middle transfer. It's amazing how, it's really frustrating as a middle fan. Like the O-line at middle has been pretty bad for a really long time. And yet somehow these guys transfer and end up being really good players. Keelan Rutledge was at middle.
Yep.
Goes to Georgia Tech, becomes a first-round pick. And so, Mateo Guevara goes over to Kennesaw, where they're going to want to run the ball a lot. It's a good pickup for them at center.
Yeah. And, you mentioned their schedule, Sprouse. I mean, to me, it's very, very manageable. You get West Georgia to kick off the year. You get Georgia State, which will be an awesome, crosstown game. They get them at home. You're on the road at Tennessee in week 3. That one's going to be your tough physical challenge. And then Arkansas State in week 4. And then you get into conference, like you stated, Jack State at home, Liberty at home, Delaware at home. Do finish with Western Kentucky on the road. But I just think with that defense is going to keep them in games all year long. That's my opinion. And if the offense can figure it out, especially you get kind of really 2 tune-up games, week 1 and week 2 before you got to go on the road in Neyland. We'll see. Could we get like the Georgia State knocking off Tennessee in week 3 from I was going to say a few years ago, more like 10 years ago now.
Several, yeah. Yeah, at this point. Yeah, Dan Ellington, a quarterback for Georgia State. Isn't he on staff at Kennesaw now?
He may be.
Not sure. I can't remember if that's right. Well, Jeff, I have one more team I'm going to call a contender.
I do too.
Who do you have here?
The Blue Hens, baby.
Ain't no doubt about it, Jeff. No doubt about it. I'm not huge on returning starters because, sometimes you want to replace a guy, right? Sometimes you're starting a guy because you're forced to. That being said, for Delaware, 7 returning starters on offense, 5 returning starters on defense. We talk about the quarterbacks again, and this dude is a gamer. He might not have the greatest numbers in the world. He might not be the best, pocket passer in the world or the best NFL guy. But Minicucci at quarterback, like he's got that. I'm going to sound real freaking ESPN here. He's got the it factor. He's got the swagger, right? He's got that Manziel, Pavia kind of like, don't give a crap attitude, which gets him in trouble at times. Now he's got to cut down, be a little more careful with the ball, be a little more careful about running it and getting himself killed out there. But you love his toughness. You love the way he plays, and that team buys in. And you talked about Joe Silver when we did our G6 draft show. He's due for a giant year on offense.
Yeah, and I think why some of his production was a little bit, I mean, you can say it was less than the Lucky Suttons of the world, right? And Jalen Buckley's, but I think Minicucci, his ability to run the ball, especially when you get in the red zone, he had 10 touchdowns on the ground a year ago, over 3,000 yards passing, 23 touchdowns with 7 interceptions. Now, his picks came at bad moments. I think that's where Minicucci can be better. understanding the situation, when to take risks and when to take a sack. There's nothing wrong with taking a sack, especially when the situation calls for it. Let your defense, get an opportunity to potentially get you the ball back rather than giving them a short field or, a defensive touchdown. But with Joe Silver, you get Sean Wilson at the wideout coming back. I think they got plenty of firepower there. Bryson Graves transfers over from Coastal with a big body at 6'3", 225. He had productions last year as well. So as far as offensively, I think this has the ability to be the best offense in Conference USA. With the quarterback, with the running back, with the receivers, you get 2 returning offensive linemen. If they can, mesh together quickly, I like their schedule, Sprouse.
Yeah, well, and Jeff, we talked again on our G6 draft show when we were going O-line. We both went with a center with our first pick, and Delaware's got a guy, a veteran, a senior, all-conference USA player. And Jeff, like when you read the name, it sounds like just a 1960s Hall of Fame NFL center. Steve Demboski.
Yeah.
Okay, is your center at Delaware. And we talked about having that anchor. So when you have your center that can, call out alignments, call out coverages, call out certain things, identify the mic, and do it quickly, it's going to help that offensive line mesh. So offensively, I think they're going to be really good. Now, on defense, they gave up a lot of points last year. So they've got to shore that up on the other side of the ball. And you couple that with Minakuchi and some of the turnovers he had, that can get you in trouble sometimes. So that'll be something to watch for sure this year.
Yeah, and then when you look at their non-conference slate, Vanderbilt, Coastal Carolina, Virginia, that's a pretty tough, week 2, week 3, week 4. A lot of people are high. Our boy Rico Knows is super high on Virginia. But if you can stay, come out of that healthy, I mean, you start off right off the rip playing Liberty at home. Then you got Western, Kennesaw on the road, and then you finish the year with Jack State. So I think they got a pretty tough schedule draw, especially in conference, but they got the firepower offensively to make it happen.
Well, and the other thing for them towards the end of the year there, Jacksonville State's got to go up there in November. FIU's got to go up to Delaware in November. Huge advantage with especially those particular teams going up north to play Delaware. But yeah, I mean, and that non-conference, like, it's tough. But, like, I don't think you're worried about coming out of a Vanderbilt game totally beat up. I don't think you're worried about coming out of Virginia being totally beat up, just from the physicality standpoint. So, man, I like Delaware. I like them a lot. The Blue Hens. You got anybody else that's a contender, Jeff?
Yeah, I had this team as a contender. I got FIU. Really? I got FIU as a contender. They could have been a dark horse too, honestly, because
that's where I have them. Dark horse.
I mean, I was kind of flip flopping, but I picked somebody else as a dark horse. But talk about FIU. I think they're a legitimate contender with the pieces they brought in. JJ Cole at quarterback.
Well, yeah, Jeff, and you at first glance you think, okay, well, they lose Kewan Jenkins, they lose the running back Owens, but at times, like, we've been talking about Kewan Jenkins for several years, back when Coach Mack was there at FIU, as like, we got this local kid, he's going to be the thing. And he never really got there. He never really hit the stride that we were all expecting and waiting for to happen. But JJ Cole, I mean, he had a pretty good year at App.
I thought
1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, and most importantly, Jeff, 2 interceptions. And he is a big kid, listed on the roster 6'7", 250. I mean, but I think, Jeff, for FIU, I think they're going to be really good defensively, which, they always have that speed on the defense. But Kenton Simmons off the edge for them, 6 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss last year. They bring back 2 of their top 3 tacklers from last year. So I think the defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. And now you have this quarterback that's a totally different style of play than you've had in the past, but that protects the ball. Man, I think FIU is going to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, and you talked about the defense. I'm going to go back to the offense real quick. I think it'll be one of the better offensive lines they've had, with Flournoy and Tripp both coming back, are projected all-conference type of offensive linemen. That's going to be huge. And then you get a transfer in Greg Gaines coming over from Rhode Island at the receiver position. 1,000 yards a year ago, 4 touchdowns. It's got the recipe, it feels like to me, that they are just going to have a great year. Now, it could be because we were a little biased. Willie Simmons is the old ball coach. I don't know. Nick Coleman down there, he knows quarterbacks.
Gilstrap back there.
Our boy Strap. This is like the MTSU coaching staff.
All the young up and comers that were at Middle when we were there are now like your big time staff guys at FIU. Now I have a bold prediction.
What you got
for the Panthers? A really bold prediction, and I don't know if Panthers fans are going to like it because I think they're going to be really good, but I think that they are going to finish right at 500. I think they are going to go undefeated at home. And I think they are not going to win a game on the road. Let me tell you why. At home, Buffalo, Long Island, New Mexico State, Blue Raiders, Missouri State, Sam Houston. I think you win all 6 of those. On the road, however, South Florida Bulls, FAU, Shula Bowl, Jacksonville State, Liberty, Delaware, and Kennesaw. I think that Kennesaw game, potentially Delaware, but that's on the road late in the year. It can be cold up there. And then FAU, a lot of people are high on FAU in the American. So just you get all your toughest opponents on the road, and you get all your teams you're going to be favored against at home. So I think it's a recipe for like a lot of hope. Can you win 1 or 2 road games?
Yeah.
And give yourself a chance?
I think it's doable. I'm high on the Panthers, especially you talked about that defense. If their defense can make a big jump and get their, points allowed down 4 or 5 points per game, that offense I feel like is going to be one of the better ones they've had in the last decade.
Yeah. In the chat, Kevin says Cole is the tallest quarterback in history when he officially takes the field in week 1 at South Florida. Mm-hmm. Who, how tall was, remember Paxton Lynch at Memphis? He was real big, wasn't he? I remember him being, I think it was Paxton Lynch was real tall.
Yeah, I think he was.
I can't really remember,
like 6'4",
but I don't have
6'5".
Yeah, I don't have time to Google it. Well, Jeff, so I had FAU as my FIU. I'm so sorry, as my dark horse. You had him as a contender. So who is your dark horse? For the love of God,
you know where I'm going, Strauss. I got to go with the Blue Raiders. Because they'd be the ultimate dark horse coming off of a 3-9 season a year ago. You get new offensive coordinator Anthony Scelfo, and I think the biggest reason why I have him as a dark horse is Roman Gagliano. Roman started the last 3 years and really took this offense to another level. His legs give him the ability to extend plays not only in the pass game, but then you get that QB run game. They had a ton of transfers come in on the offensive line. Now, size does not mean everything, but you got tons of, I'm trying to find my notes here. Sorry. Projected offensive lineman, 6'7", 365 pounds, Reese Tripp, coming over from Minnesota. That's the type of body you need on the outside at the tackle that can reach, that can drive block. Brennan Smith coming over from Mississippi State, 6'3", 320. So I think up front, they are going to be bigger than they've been. Now, that doesn't always translate to the run game or pass protection, but with Roman, what he's able to do with his legs, with the transfers they've brought in, Cam Lacey's back, who's going to be one of the best receivers, slot guys in the conference, and then you have A.J. Jones on the outside, who's 6'4", has got some size. I mean, defensively worries me. I'm not sure, you lost your top defensive lineman. Secondary needed a lot of work from a year ago. So they're a dark horse. That's all I'm saying. Got a chance.
Jeff, to me, for Middle, same song and dance, right? I mean, we've been talking about it for 5 or 6 years. You got to protect the quarterback. And I know Roman can run it a little bit more than Nick and some of the guys they've had recently, but he gave up 30 sacks a year ago. Now, I will say this. We lost quite a few pretty close games, 4 one-possession losses for the Blue Raiders. Now, what do we say, right? It's kind of the trajectory of a new head coach, right? You lose big and you lose close. And then you start winning close. So is year 3 for Derek Mason a winning close season? I'm not ready to commit to that.
Yeah, I mean, they got a pretty tough, schedule draw, and you play the top teams. We've talked about our favorites in Western Kentucky, Liberty on the road, Kennesaw State. You do get them at home. You get Delaware at home, but you're on the road at Jack State. So you basically play all of our favorites who we said, the contenders. You do get to finish the year at Sam Houston and New Mexico at home, but Who knows? Roman is easily going to win them, I think, 2 or 3 more games than maybe they probably wouldn't have a year ago. Can that offensive line that's been rebuilt and brought in be the game changer?
2 or 3 more games. You're over here talking about 6 wins
Yeah,
for
I
the
think
Blue
so.
Raiders.
I think that's realistic for them. I mean, when you look at their
I hope so, man.
when you look at their schedule, I mean, Murray State should be a win. Marshall on the road is going to be tough. You beat Nevada. I know it was late a year ago, but they're traveling across the country. That's 2. Your swing games to me are at FIU. They're going to want a little bit of revenge from getting embarrassed a year ago. That would be 3. Sam Houston would be 4. New Mexico would be 5. Can you pick off Western and 100 Miles of Hate? There's your 6th win right there, and you're going to a bowl game.
Jeff, I'm looking at that stretch from week 2 all the way to week 13. I mean, you are Marshall, Nevada, Jacksonville State, Kansas, Delaware, FIU, Kennesaw, Western, Liberty. Whew.
Yeah.
That's a tough stretch. Now, in years past, that wasn't Kansas. That was Michigan or Alabama or Georgia. So you've had guys beat up. They got some size on the O-line. I've seen some videos of that Reese Tripp kid in the weight room, lifting some pretty heavy weight. So strong kid, explosive kid. We'll see. I don't have them as a dark horse. I have Middle as
bit of a homer,
everybody else.
I always got to be homer at least one time.
So we're down to now 3 more teams. Missouri State, maybe a little bit unexpected. Ryan Beard leaving, going over to Coastal. Casey Woods takes over. For Missouri State, I don't see them in the tier of teams that compete. Now, I think they'll be I'm not buying middle. So I think Missouri State could be right there, kind of in that tier of maybe we can fight for a bowl game. They do bring in Breezy Dubar from Boise State. It's a big pickup, and Missouri State has had some running backs come out of there.
They have, and you get the new coach. You lose your quarterback who felt like had been there forever. So who's going to be your QB? You got Henry Bellin. You got Skylar Locklear, who we saw at UTEP, who's got experience in production. Who's going to win that battle out during camp? Remains to be seen. And then, I like Breezy Dubar. I just think when you look at their schedule, you got a lot of question marks on the offensive line. At Texas A&M to open the year is going to be physically a challenge. Lindenwood, Marshall, SMU, Western Kentucky, Delaware, your first 6 games is brutal from a physical standpoint, outside of Lindenwood. So,
yeah. What about New Mexico State? Seems like it was so long ago that they were playing in Lynchburg for a conference championship with Diego Pavia, but it wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. And I'm excited to see this Trey Hedden kid from Furman. Almost 3,000 yards passing a year ago, 17 touchdowns, did have the 13 interceptions. But the kid can spin it. There's no question about it. And they're going to need to. They're going to need to put up a ton of points on offense because that defense gives up a lot of yards and a lot of points.
Yeah. And then Sam Houston rounding it out. Sam Houston last year, when we saw him week 1 or week 0, I don't remember what it was. I think it was week 1 at Western. They had pieces on that roster, and they at times looked pretty good. They did not use Hunter Watson the way that he needed to be used. Now, part of that is a team wanting to run a certain system, and they don't have the guy to fit it. So this year, maybe they got guys that fit the system a little bit better. They still have McCaskill, don't they, at running back? We were wanting him to get a bunch more touches, and maybe he'll get some this year.
Yeah,
but
he got banged up a little bit a year ago. That's been the last several years. Is McCaskill is a home run threat. He is an incredible running back. He just hasn't really been able to stay healthy. He's kind of got dinged up. You got Landon Locke at QB who shirted a year ago. He'll probably end up being QB1. DJ Bailey also was on the roster a year ago. Phil Longo to me has not taken this program where it needed to go. And he's supposed to be a QB, coach, an offensive guy. I haven't seen it. And I thought you had a dangerous dual threat quarterback a year ago. And it seemed like Hunter Watson was unsure, really tried to keep him in the pocket more than he probably should have. So to me, it's is that Are you trying to force a kid into an area where like it's not his strengths? When my opinion as a coach, like you should put your guys in the best situation to be successful no matter what. So is that him not being flexible, or is that him just trying to, improve Hunter Watson in an area that, I mean, it's a quarterback position. You got to be able to sit in the pocket and throw. So we'll see. But again, when you look at their schedule, it's a physical, tough draw. You're at Troy to start the year. You get Tulsa at home, who I think Tulsa is going to be very, very good in the American. Nichols is probably your easiest non-conference game. At Texas Tech to finish the non-con. At Liberty, Western. You get, Jacksonville State on the road. You get Kennesaw State home. Like, you play pretty much all the top dogs in conference. Can you get out of that first 4-game stretch relatively healthy? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, that rounds it out. Bold predictions for the season in Conference USA. I already kind of gave one with FIU. Going undefeated at home, not winning a game on the road is my prediction for them. What about a bold prediction for you? Coach fired. Somebody comes out, makes a CFP. What do you got?
My bold prediction is going into the last, I'll say, 2 weeks of the season, you're going to have 6 teams in this conference that are mathematically alive to make the conference championship. I think this is not as top heavy of a conference as people think. So that's my bold predictions. We don't really know who's going to be going in the last 2 weeks of the season, and then that's going to clear things up for us going into that remaining final game.
Well, and there are some, I don't have it in front of me, but as I was doing my prep, the schedule for Conference USA lines up where a lot of those, I imagine the 6 you're talking about will play each other in those last 2 weeks. I imagine you're going Liberty, Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State, Kennesaw, Delaware, FIU.
Yeah.
Or middle.
Or
middle. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. This conference, I don't know that I have a bold. That's a really good one that you just had there. Before we make our pick, I mean, I think there's going to be some chatter about Charles Kelly. It's going to be my bold prediction for every conference, probably. The coach that's fired or
Jamie Chadwell, maybe. Good or bad.
That is something for him. Like, if they have a really good season and his name gets brought up again, do you get out of there? Like, that's what I've been saying. I've changed my tune on that. Like, where if you have the success, like, you might have to go. I think he wants to be there, though. I think I agree. He wants to be there long term. But Charles Kelly, I think Willie Simmons' name will come up, especially depending on what happens across the rest of the country. All right. Well, let's make picks. I'm going to go. I think Jacksonville State will get it done this year as the champ. And I think they're going to beat the Blue Hens of Delaware.
Yeah.
In the championship game. That's what I'm going with. Yeah.
So Liberty's left out altogether, huh?
Yeah. I don't trust them. I mean, for what it's worth, like they on paper, they should be. Western Kentucky on paper, it should be. But, the last couple of years, we hadn't seen it.
I like that. I like Jack State. That's who I have. Jack State in the championship game. I have them playing Liberty. As much as I want to take the Gamecocks because I love them, I'm going to go the Flames. I think the Flames do it. I think they get it done. I think a lot to do with the transfers they've brought in, and I think they got a great schedule draw in the non-conference and in conference. Flames get it done. There you go, Chad, if you're listening.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, right at an hour. So, I mean, after a botched intro by me and one internet malfunction, I mean, the timing is mid-season form on this show. The outline was mid-season. Now, there's only 10 teams.
I was going to say.
So we get to these conferences. Well, so keep a mental note of that, Jeff, as you're finalizing your prep on especially like the American 14 teams and about 8 really good ones. So it's going to be tough. We'll try to keep it as close to an hour as we can. But we've got Maction on Wednesday. What did we say? Mountain West on Friday.
Yeah.
Pack Monday. American Wednesday. Sunbelt Friday. And then it's week 0. We're glad to be back Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Believe Network. Tell your family and friends all about us. Follow us on all the socials at Group of Five Guys. That includes TikTok, by the way.
Yeah, we're
New
on
to
the TikToks.
new to the TikToks. Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm such a freaking old millennial. Can't believe we're on TikTok, Jeff. But anyway, make sure you follow us, all of those. This has been the Group of Five Guys presented by FanDuel. Have a great week. We're out of here.